special virtual guest appearance from freaking Elon Musk. This is just crazy. So let's put him on. Yes. Okay. So, Elon, this is John from Tesla in Silicon Valley. I just want to personally thank you for spending your precious time to be here at the X Takeover with this audience. On behalf of Tesla in Silicon Valley, thank you for coming.
You're welcome.
So we just want to, I guess, let's just dive right into it. But can you share just a little bit about hold on a second. So I think one thing, obviously we know in the next week or two, Starship 5 is going to be happening. What's top of mind? What does success look like for you?
Well, it's probably not, from a standpoint of when Starship will be ready, it's probably is about 2 or 3 weeks, but then depends on when we get the FAA license. So that is probably end of August, is my guess, earliest, and it may go to early September. Just depends on how fast the FAA grants our license.
And for you, what does success look like? I know there's the idea of literally using the chopsticks to capture this. Is that still the goal? Is that what success would look like? Or what is success for you in SpaceX in this next Starship 5 launch?
Well, we would like to capture the booster in the giant mechanism arms, which sounds kind of insane. And because this is the largest flying object ever made, so to catch it with giant robot arms is pluck it out of the sky is pretty insane. But I think it's got a decent chance of working. Might take a few kicks at the can before it's actually before it works well. But we're not breaking physics, so success is one of the possible outcomes here. So we do want to try to recover the booster. On the last flight, we were able to achieve a soft landing in the ocean, or the Gulf, in the water.
Congrats, by the way.
Yeah, that's cool. So I think people may have seen the real-time video all the way down to the splashdown. And then the other thing we're hoping to achieve is obviously a more robust heat shield. So last time the ship actually did make it to the Pacific Ocean, or kind of like the border of the Indian and the Pacific Ocean, and it did light the engines, and actually the ship did achieve a soft landing, but we lost a lot of heat shield tiles, and it's kind of amazing that the ship did make it to a soft water landing, and that it made it all the way to the surface and also splashed down intact. However, because of damage to because of lost tiles, and I mean we basically are like two skeleton. The forward flaps were so melted they're like trying to control with like little skeleton hands. But it managed to make it, but it didn't get to the exact right location. So because it lost the control authority, it was about 6 miles or so off course from its landing location. So this time, obviously, we want the heat shield to survive intact, and the flaps to have full control authority and land at not just land softly in the ocean, but land at the exact right location. The ship landing is the tough part, meaning that's because the ship has a heat shield and it's really designed to survive entry, not to sort of vaporize. It comes down very much intact, and so we need to make sure that for the ship that the reliability of the heat shield is extremely high, and that the flaps and then it can steer to a very precise landing location. Because if it were to break up over populated area. There's some possibility of debris hitting, damaging property or people, and so we want to be really confident that the ship heat shield is super robust and lands at the exact right location. So before we try to bring the ship back to the launch site, we'll probably, I think, want to have at least 3 successful landings of the ship. And the ship heat shield this time is substantially upgraded. I'd say it's at least twice as good, well, some cases like infinitely better, and has a secondary heat shield behind the primary heat shield. So it's probably a longer explanation than maybe you're looking for, but that's what we're hoping to achieve is, I think we could probably have 50% chance-ish of catching the booster, and then probably better than 50%, maybe 60, 70% chance of the ship heat shield remaining intact on this upcoming flight, assuming nothing else goes wrong.
So one thing I did want to comment is actually the X Takeover is actually, you're coming through Starlink right now. So all the work that SpaceX is doing, it's all through Starlink.
It's Starlink here too. It's a Starlink.
Starlink connected Starlink.
Yeah, I'm testing the Starlink Mini as well. So I'm like alternating between the main Starlink dish and the Starlink Mini dish. Now, to be clear, the Starlink Mini dish is not as good as the regular dish because it's a smaller antenna. It's not as much antenna area as the regular dish. Just to be clear, like the Starlink Mini is not exactly the same as the other one, but just smaller.
Backpack size.
It's like you give up a little bit of antenna area but it's extremely portable. So it's like, I don't know, maybe a quarter of the weight of the regular one, but and you'll get about half the bandwidth. So it's sort of, its power to weight, it's like ability to weight ratio is really good. It's and then you can just put it in a backpack, take it anywhere you want. I think it'd be pretty good as a sort of a backup device for emergency services. Actually, a lot of sort of first responders and emergency services are looking at having that as just because it's so easy to just put on a vehicle. In fact, I know people have put it on Teslas, which is pretty cool.
We have Cybertrucks here with them literally stationed on them. Shout out to Tesla Tino and some of the other ones.
Yeah, but I think like the Starlink Mini especially is, because it's so portable and easy to put in places, it's just great for emergency services, or if there's like forest fires, floods, natural disasters, which take out where you lose the ground fiber and you lose the cell towers, then you still have access to the internet with Starlink.
Elon, we're in the market for a Starlink Mini, so 2 thumbs up, good reviews. How do you like it so far?
It's good. It's a new product, so we're always like ironing out little things here and there. But so far so good. It's looking good. I think it'll be a huge seller, and also it costs less to manufacture. So that means the terminal cost I think might ultimately get down around a couple $100, which makes it accessible to many parts of the world where the more expensive terminal is unaffordable. So this should be affordable for much of the world.
Well, I can't wait to get out to South Padre Island for selfish reasons and have the Starlink Mini to cover this live. But what's incredible is just the access that Starlink is. You can go anywhere in the world and have access. Like, the gap for knowledge is no longer going to be an issue in some of the most remote places. So even making it more accessible with Starlink Mini is just insane. Quickly back to the Starship 5. So Starship 4 happened. I was there live on Isla Blanca Park. And then even going through the Star Factory tour, just what you guys are doing at Starbase is incredible, and how fast you iterate and make changes on the fly as it's, each day that goes by, it feels like a century maybe at other places because of how much you guys are changing.
what, outside of the heat shields, what were some of the other big findings from the Starship 4 launch that you guys are implementing for and preparing for this upcoming launch?
Well, this really, between each flight, there are hundreds of changes on both the ship and the booster. Many of them are very sort of small, but they add up, cumulatively to significant changes. So, if you add up changes to the ship, the booster, and to the launch site, you're really talking about thousands of changes between each flight. So, you've got really talented teams at SpaceX working on the stage 0, which is like the launch site. And stage 0 is as important as stage 1 and 2. So the stage 1 being the booster, stage 2 being the ship. So man, there's so many, and a lot of them people wouldn't, if I got into the details of it, people would be like, I don't know what you're talking about. It's gonna be like a little valve here, and a line change here, and a wiring routing change there, and a bunch of tweaks to the software, and so it's a whole bunch of things that are not like as easy to describe as upgrading the heat shield. There's now there's a much more significant change coming in a couple flights from now. I think it's Ship 7, where we move the forward flaps more towards the rear. So this sort of bugged me as a kind of design mistake we made with the ship initially, which is to have the forward flaps be symmetric with the rear flaps, where the forward flaps are at 180 degrees. And you really actually want the forward flaps to be kind of in the lee of the wind. Because this is, I'm cautious about getting into too much technical detail that maybe doesn't make sense if you don't know about like rocket. But the way you think about how the ship steers itself is it's kind of like a skydiver, where the flaps are like the forward flap, they're like arms and legs. So it's really different from a plane. It's like, and then the forward flaps, you really don't want the forward flaps to be visible to the airflow, because you're really trying desperately to not have the engine side rotate forward and get into the hot plasma. So with I think Ship 7, the forward flaps get smaller, and they kind of they rotate back. I mean their hinge position, instead of being 180 degrees, is like, I don't know, maybe 150 degrees or so. And so the forward flaps are really just used as trim flaps. So they basically, in a nutshell, the flaps get smaller and lighter, the payload improves, and then there's continued improvements to the heat shields. The engines get better, so we're able to run the engines at higher thrust with more reliability. And then a really big step change will be maybe in the next year or something like that, where we get rid of the base heat shield and the ship heat shield, the engine side heat shield. So the engines do not need to be encapsulated with the next big revision of the Raptor engine, which is quite tricky, but that eliminates a lot of mass at the base of the vehicle and at the base of the ship. But base of the ship and the booster both get a lot lighter, and the engines are more robust. There's a lot of Starship technical detail here, but and then also the payload will be comfortably above 100 tons to a useful orbit. So 100 tons to useful orbit with full reusability, where the booster and the ship come back to the launch site, means that the cost per ton to orbit is, I don't know, maybe about 100 times less than it has been in the past. And this is what would enable life to extend beyond Earth. And and to build a self-sustaining city on Mars, which would maximize the probable lifespan of consciousness by, I don't know, many millennia, if not millions of years.
I'm going to pass it over to Kelvin after this, but one thing that's incredible about you, Elon, is how much in the weeds you are. I don't think I've ever seen any leader at any company be so involved in the weeds, and the fact that you can go as high and as low, literally, it's just truly amazing. So I'm going to pass it over to Kelvin, but that's just one thing that I've noticed about you, is that you're highly involved in everything you're doing, and you're able to step out bird's eye, but also get into the weeds.
Yeah, well, I mean, I drive the engineering design companies, so that's like relatively unusual, you know. But that's I think a big part of why the companies succeed is because I understand the engineering, and I know when somebody, you know, my judgment on whether somebody is great at engineering or design is quite good. So in terms of really having the most talented people, giving them the most responsibility, if you don't actually understand the engineering, then how do you know that somebody's a good engineer? So that's really important. So that's I think, you know, we're a very talented team, but in order to know that somebody's talented, you must also understand the engineering.
Elon, we're going to shift gears and talk about Tesla.
Thank you. This is the Tesla takeover.
Now the X takeover, but we do Tesla takeovers all over the world now.
That's cool. Guys, I just want to say thanks a lot for your support. It's super appreciated. Thank you.
But I just wanted to say thank you from our organization for the support. Literally 2018, I got my Tesla, started driving it, and I can't believe the amount of FUD out there on it and fake news, especially even in the Bay Area. And so that's
been that way, you know.
But that's what dragged me into getting into this community and creating now these epic events. But I'll pass it over to Kelvin.
Yeah, Elon, so obviously a lot of Tesla fans here as well as SpaceX, but regarding on the Tesla side, can you give us any updates on any future models? Obviously, the robo-taxi coming up.
Yeah, I can't do like product announcements.
At the X Takeover, just joking.
I mean, I think the you know, a lot of what I've said, I said on the earnings call, or at least I try to, you know, say what I think on the earnings call. The overwhelmingly important thing is achieving unsupervised full self-driving. So this is really profound, and hopefully a lot of you have gotten the chance to use 12.5 or at least 12.3.6. So the Tesla AI team, and it's a couple hundred. It's not a huge team. It's just a few hundred. Super talented engineers, but I do want to emphasize that it's you know, it's obviously way more than me, but it's more than Ashok, and it's like it's like tough to recognize like 200 people, but I just do want to emphasize that there's well, it's actually a little more than 200 people that are really responsible for full self-driving software side, and then we've got a great chip design team. Because you need the chip it's going to run on something. So the Tesla AI chip, hardware 3 and hardware 4, and then upcoming hardware 5, which will probably be in volume production in 26. Yeah, 26. There's really great chip team, and then we've also got a great a training cluster team. Like, it's actually very hard to run to build and run a large NVIDIA training cluster takes a lot of skill and a lot of work. You know, the team's cranking 24/7 on building the south extension to the Gigafactory in Austin. And I was actually just touring the team last night, making good progress for installing the servers. But I do. It's like sometimes people think, oh, you just buy NVIDIA GPUs and plug them in, and they start the training run, and off we go. This is not the case at all.
That's magic.
It's super hard, actually. In fact, one of the tricky things that is kind of interesting with if you've got a large NVIDIA training run or any kind of like large training run, the power fluctuations are unlike anything you ever see anywhere else, because the GPUs are all running with extreme precision. It's like a symphony, like this massive symphony with, in the case of the installation at Giga Texas will be 50,000. It's like, imagine 50,000 instruments all moving in symphony. And what that actually causes, it's like actually extremely difficult, like a nightmare electrically, because when the GPUs go up, the power goes up, and the GPUs go down, power goes down. And this can happen at like 100 millisecond intervals. So it's actually quite a difficult thing electrically.
Sounds like a light show almost.
It's kind of like a light show. You just get these dramatic changes in power draw. And so and when you're at 50 megawatts, that can go from 50 megawatts down to 20 megawatts in 100 milliseconds. That's just very unusual. So, and back up again. Anyway, so it's actually quite challenging. So shout out to the Tesla team for that is, building and operating the training center. So it's really like quite a few pieces of the puzzle that need to be done, and then we've got to record a lot of data, and feed that into the training system. But the net result is that it's really starting to become quite compelling, I think, with 12.5. As I mentioned publicly, we've increased the number of parameters by a factor of 5. Now, one can't simply increase parameters. One does not simply increase parameter. Unless those parameters are useful and done in the right way, it doesn't matter. You actually have to have the parameters be the right. Well, each parameter is like just a number, but the numbers have to be correct. And you can think of what the AI is trying to do is effectively compress reality. So it's trying to say, like, okay, we're taking all this video in, trying to understand reality, compress it down to, a few gigabytes, really. Although I think that's steadily expanding and probably end up being 20 gigabytes soon. But we're trying to compress reality into, I don't know, a few gigabytes is pretty hard. And because the inference computer in the car is much weaker than, say, a GPU in a server center, it's only got like maybe 15 to 20% as much power, so in order to make, if your inference computer is relatively weak, then you have to spend actually more effort on the training side in order to make up for the weak inference computer. Anyway, so but it is working. I think it's doing really well, I think we'll see continued rapid improvements each passing week.
Speaking of light shows, Elon, I just want to say thank you for reposting and sharing our light show from X Takeover. Appreciate it.
Sure.
So I want to talk about battery technologies. What advancements are you most excited about in terms of battery technology, and how will they impact the range of and efficiencies of future Teslas?
Well, I think it's important to note that even if there were no battery breakthroughs at all, I think you could electrify all road transport and all road and transport and all ships could be electrified with even if there was zero improvements in battery technology. This may be an important point to note. Now, there will be improvements in battery technology, but even if there weren't, you could electrify all ground and water transport. For airplanes, you do need some improvement in the energy density, the gravimetric and volumetric energy density. So you ideally want to have about a 450 to 500 watt-hours per kilogram energy density, which you can get, I think, in some. It's getting there. Like it's the, you know, with some expensive cells, they're up in that region. But really, most of the R&D effort is in improving the cost per per kilowatt hour. So the cost of range, improving, like how do you improve the cost of the battery pack in order to make the cars more affordable? And then from a range standpoint, I think people are coming to expect a range of roughly 300 miles, I think, as being kind of normal, maybe a little above 300 miles. And that's if you're assuming that you're going, you're not climbing a mountain in cold weather, because as you add more load, the range will decrease. On the other hand, if you're going down a mountain, your range will increase. I think we're really starting to see like a normal EPA range of above 300 miles as being kind of the normal standard. And then just figuring out how to build enough battery packs and scale it up. We're making good progress in the Tesla design cell, which is a design manufacturer cell, which is this is a hard problem. I mean, there are entire companies that's all they do. But the rate of progress is good. And but like I said, no major breakthroughs. There's a lot of work just to say like how many gigawatt hours of cells need to be made every year to really transition the world to a sustainable energy economy. It's actually, hundreds of gigawatt hours per year, ultimately perhaps thousands. And a lot of it will go to stationary storage. So for pairing wind power with stationary battery packs and solar power with stationary battery packs, and just overall improving the efficiency and stability of the grid with the stationary battery packs. That's actually quite a big deal. So yeah, but overall, I feel like things are progressing at a good rate.
So I've been, when you think of a lot of the OGs that I've met over the years who've been following Tesla, I'm fairly late to the game, but it's crazy even since 2018, going from being weeks, if not days, from bankruptcy to how the company has been going from ramping to 5,000 Model 3s into full self-driving. And the one thing, I always knew that I was driving a robot at the end of the day, but never did I think, I guess maybe I was just limited in thinking that we would ever create humanoids in Tesla specifically. And again,
yeah.
How would you say, as also too, Tesla is an AI robotics company, how has that just changed the outlook for Tesla, just having these bots maybe, ramping to being in the factories? And you've made comments about how you believe, Tesla will be the most valuable company in the world. And so, how is robotics?
Yeah.
So how has robotics, humanoids just impacted the valuation view and really the vision for the company?
Right. Well, you can think of the Tesla cars as essentially robots on four wheels. So the it's really profound, and I'd recommend just giving demonstrations of the self-driving capability to people, to friends and family and stuff, because if you take a Model 3 or Model Y, I mean it's a good-looking car, but it doesn't look like it has like super intelligence. It looks like it's a good-looking electric car, but it doesn't look like it's like. I use the analogy like, let's say you had a cat, and it looks like a normal cat, but actually your cat can talk and jump up and do like a hat and cane dance and do like a musical.
Are you talking about Garfield?
Essentially, like let's say you had a sentient cat that could talk and sing and dance. But people look at the cat on the couch and the cat, well, it just looks like a normal cat, until it jumps up and does a song and dance, and it's like, whoa, wow, what was that? So that's the thing with the self-driving, is that, yeah, sure, the Model 3 Y, they're good-looking, normal-looking cars, except ours can basically sing and dance, and it's intelligent and can drive from one place to another. So just demonstrating that to people kind of blows their mind. So I'd recommend doing that, because that's really key. And then for the Optimus robot, that's really an extension of what we've learned with the car. So the car is a robot with 4 wheels, intelligent robot with 4 wheels, and Optimus is an intelligent robot with arms and legs. So, in the case of Optimus, we have to design every part of the robot from scratch. All the motors and gears and electronics and sensors all had to be designed from scratch, and also we had to learn how to operate all of these motors and sensors. You really get to learn a lot about how the human body works, and you realize there's a reason why we evolved this way. There's a reason why the muscles that operate your hand are actually located in your forearm, because you actually so you're if you look at your sort of hand, it's sort of like it's like a puppet basically, and the puppet strings are in your forearm, there are a small number of muscles that are actually in the hand, but most of the muscles that operate your hand are in your forearm. So with the current version of Optimus, we actually have the actuators in the hand, but with the new version that we're moving to later this year, the actuators are in the forearm, and really emulating how a human hand works. So, and there really are no motors, and there are no actuators. When I say actuator, an actuator would be like motor plus gearbox plus power electronics and sensors. There are no actuators that you can buy for really any amount of money that work well for a humanoid robot. So we have to go back to physics first principles and design all of the actuators from scratch. So it's a tremendous amount of work, and I think it'd be very difficult for any company that does not have that's not extremely good at designing actuators to make an effective humanoid robot. And then it'll have the same brain as the car. So initially hardware 4 and then hardware 5 in 26. And then just as the car is learning how to navigate reality, it's the same basic process for the humanoid robot. And I think basically everyone's going to want one. So it's like, who wouldn't want? There's no ways to think of robots, but like let's say R2D2 and C3PO were real, and you can have them. Like, who would not want R2D2 C3PO? That would be awesome.
Elon, yeah.
Like a friendly buddy robot. Now they stay friendly, of course. That's very important.
I was looking for a Garfield.
Yeah, but I think it's kind of like people will get pretty attached to their humanoid robots, just like people, you get attached to C3PO and R2D2. Yeah, I think everyone's going to pretty much want one. And I think long term, the cost of the humanoid robot should be less than the cost of a car because it weighs less. There's, fewer parts in it. So ultimately, I think, a humanoid robot that is super useful. I think long term is probably like $20,000 or $25,000. So it depends on what a dollar's worth in the future, inflation and all. But current year dollars, I think, I can see reaching a price of $25,000 for a humanoid robot that would be really useful. That could help you take care of kids, walk the dog, go get groceries, whatever works, So I think everyone's gonna want one. So there's 8 billion people on Earth, and I think they're all gonna want one. So that's why I think it's probably gonna be the biggest thing ever.
Elon, what are you gonna use your robot for?
Well, initially we're starting production unit 1 of production design 1 of Optimus, which we'll do some basic stuff in the Tesla factories next year because we want to iron out a lot of details. It's just to make sure it's useful. And for the first year or so, it's going to require quite a lot of babysitting from engineering, and then hopefully when we get to 2026, that'll be when we can sort of sell it outside of the company, because and have be confident that it'll work reasonably well and respond to voice commands and that kind of thing. So, and then you'll be able to sort of, I think, customize how the robot looks as well, long term. Because you can kind of shell or skin the robot however you like. So I think there'll be wide variations in how the robot looks, how the robot looks, and maybe some third parties could do cool things, just like there's cool third party wraps of the Cybertruck. That's some really creative art, I think. So the Cybertruck's even though it ships as kind of bare stainless steel, I think it ends up having some of the most interesting art in terms of how it's wrapped, and so it's really quite unique. And actually, I talked to Pharrell. He was also very creative, and he has some ideas for doing a Pharrell version of an Optimus, for example, which would be pretty cool to have different artists come up with different versions of Optimus.
So, speaking of Cybertruck, I've had a Cybertruck since middle of February, and I'm so used to FSD, and you probably know.
You really want that? I totally agree.
I don't know if I could get special access, but or more importantly for everybody, I'm just saying I've driven 10,000 miles, and it kills my soul to be driving the most advanced technology.
Sure.
And I feel like I'm driving. It's still the most amazing vehicle
Sure.
Tesla's ever made, but any updates on FSD with Cybertruck?
I think that should be coming out in August. So,
Practically 2 weeks.
Yeah, at some point in the next 2 to 4-ish weeks, I'm not sure the exact timing because we just have to test it and make sure it works well. But 12.5 is where a lot of things come together, where you've got the high, we upgrade the highway stack to be the latest version, so it's you don't have the old highway stack and the new city stack yet, so having one sort of integrated state-of-the-art stack for highway and city is a big deal, and little things like you can wear sunglasses and still do the hands-off driving, and then having it work on Cybertruck. A friend of mine drove Cybertruck all the way halfway across the country, and he said it was driving him great. It was driving him crazy that he could not turn on FSD because it was.
We literally have people, I think, who drove from Florida, Toronto, in their Cybertrucks. Well, not for, but just coming from all over the U.S. And I think that's literally the one thing. They were just like feeling peasant status, even though this is the best product that Tesla has made yet. So,
yeah, it's great. It's a great product. So yeah, it should be very soon. So yeah, yeah.
Elon, what other future car projects are you most excited about? Is it the Roadster? Is it the Robotaxi? Can you speak about what you're most excited about?
Well, I think in terms of what will have the biggest impact in the world, it will be the kind of the Robotaxi, dedicated Robotaxi. Now, of course, all Tesla vehicles can operate it, or will be able to operate as a Robotaxi. Pretty much all. So, but yeah, I think the dedicated Robotaxi will have the single biggest effect in the world. The semi-truck, I think, will have a very, very big effect. The Roadster is one of those things that's not like necessary from a utility standpoint, but is super cool. I guess a friend of mine, Peter Thiel, is like, he would say, it's like, why don't we have flying cars? And I'm like, wait for it. So I think it's super cool. Is it change the world? I don't know, but I think like sometimes you just gotta have things that are just cool because it's just great to have awesome things in the world. So it's kind of cherry on the cake. I think the Roadster demo will be mind-blowing. It might be the most mind-blowing demo of anything ever.
Wow.
So, when is that happening? I don't know if you can share that, but it's all good if you have to pass on that one.
I think next year sometime. And that's a joint sort of Tesla SpaceX effort. So it's kind of applying combining rocket engineering with Tesla EV engineering
Alien technology.
to make something really special.
I heard it can fly a little.
Yeah. Yeah, it'll be something special, and we'll continue to make new products that we haven't talked about at all. So there's new things that'll come out. But the really ultra profound thing is full self-driving. Unsupervised full self-driving. That's like the gigantic thing. And then Optimus having an autonomous, useful humanoid robot is an even bigger thing than full self-driving. But those are the two things that, like, if you were to look back in history from, fast forward like 20, 30 years or 50 years even, like what are the things that really were profound? It'll be unsupervised, a general solution to unsupervised full self-driving, and a humanoid robot that is truly useful. Even 100 years from now, they'll be like, whoa, those are big ones.
Elon, you have a date on the calendar for the announcement and launch of the Robotaxi. What can we expect from that?
Well, I can't give it away, you gotta have some, you don't want to give the show away before the show. So I think it'll be cool.
Just a tease.
I think it'll be cool. I think people will be pretty excited, yeah. It's like I do wonder, like, in the actual event itself, how many people will realize how profound it is, what we're gonna show? I think Some people will understand how profound, not everyone will, but it will be obvious in hindsight.
I know we've been going 45 minutes. I just want to do a quick time check. Do you want to keep going a little bit more, or because we're so grateful for this?
5 or 10 minutes more.
Okay. So, everyone one thing I wanted to ask you is, so, we have, obviously the latest vehicle, the Model 3 Performance, or really the Model 3 Highland has been out, the Cybertruck came out. When you think of just obviously even the future of transportation, and obviously that's obviously where Franz comes in play with the design, but how does, when you think of unsupervised FSD, how does that change the way you even approach tackling or building something like the future of transportation? Again, I know I don't have to throw the design aspect into it, but just when you think of what is next, how does the future of transportation impact that?
Well, if you're not driving, you're really effectively sitting in like a tiny lounge. And then, so, having, say, being entertained with being able to watch movies or play video games or work, it's really, the car just becomes like a tiny mobile lounge. Or you could sleep, whatever you want to do. I mean, you could drink too, and you're not driving. So it's this thing where it's like a little mobile lounge. It's not something that you have to be, focus your attention on driving all the time. So it's a completely different experience. One cool thing I should mention is that would be, I think, interesting down the road is also for Optimus, for people that have lost their limbs. That if you take Neuralink, basically being able to control, which the Neuralink version 1 telepathy allows you to control electronic devices. If somebody's lost their arms or legs or whatever the case may be, then taking, say, an Optimus arm or leg and attaching that and combining that with a Neuralink would give them essentially cybernetic limbs. Kind of like Luke Skywalker and Empire Strikes Back, where you get like a robot hand. So I think that could be pretty incredible for people that have lost limbs, being able to have like a cybernetic limb. I think that'd be cool. Sort of combined effort between Neuralink and Tesla.
Elon, there was some recent news on X about some candy announcements or something like that.
No, I don't know what that is. I was just joking about candy stuff. So, yeah, I have too much on my plate to add candy to it, I think.
So big news.
Yeah. It's wild how much is happening in the world. I mean, there's stuff happening with SpaceX and Tesla and all the advancements in AI. A lot of advancements in pharma as well. There's a lot of interesting, like, kind of miracle drugs coming along. We're certainly headed for, I think, the most interesting future. I think we live in the most interesting of times. Sometimes it's easy to sort of get down about some day-to-day event or political stuff or whatever, but in the grand scheme of things, we are living in the most interesting time in history. And that's pretty cool.
It's so easy to, I honestly don't know how you do it on a minute by hourly basis on things that are just lies and things that are being said. But it's so important to have, a positive mindset, especially as those attacks are coming, because if you're just depressed about everything that's just coming at you, it's just so hard to move forward. And so it takes people like you who are actually being a part of that change rather than just watching it from the sidelines. And so, thank you for that. I mean, one thing I'll ask, and then I'll maybe pass it to Kelvin for one last question. So, we have a lot of retail investors here, as we know. It's actually, I just want to say how amazing X is, and how some of the stuff has even worked in the background. I remember meeting Amy Steffens, who was behind, obviously, who her team that she worked with to kind of like build a lawsuit, obviously, on the comp plan. I met her on an X Spaces, Twitter Spaces, and we got connected, and she ended up on our podcast, and next thing I know, she connects with Alexandra Mertz, Tesla Bruno Mama, and seeing all of the work that's happening behind the scenes with what Amy was doing and then what Alexandra was doing on the front facing. But the question I wanted to have is, when you think of retail investors and what it's meant to Tesla, what comes to mind, especially again, all the work that, the community has done, Alexandra, the Amy's of the world, the Tesla community, but what comes to mind when you think of retail investors for Tesla?
Well, I love retail investors, I have to say. Because I think retail investors, or like individual investors, are like they're like making a decision to support the company, and that's super appreciated. I think we have the highest retail investor percentage of maybe any company, or maybe certainly one of the highest, and I think that's really a good thing. There's going to be sort of ups and downs in the stock price for random reasons, but I do feel confident that the long-term value of the company will be extremely high. I think the best analysis I've seen is like Kathy Wood's company, ARK Invest. They've been the most accurate in the past, and it's the value of the company is going to be kind of nutty with unsupervised full self-driving and with Optimus. I sort of wonder ultimately what money will even mean in the future, because if you've got robots that if the cost of goods and services are driven to almost nothing, I think we will, assuming it's a positive future, which I think it probably will be, then we're headed for an age of abundance. I do feel like maybe that like Tesla's kind of in a phase right now, like similar to what NVIDIA was in before NVIDIA stock went bananas. And I have to say, like, NVIDIA deserves the valuation they got. Jensen and his team have done an amazing job. But it really goes to show, like, the value of any kind of AI, a company that is strong in AI, it's just going to be crazy. And it will dwarf the value of companies that do not have advanced AI. Really will be profoundly different. The simple sort of productivity, kind of back of the envelope math for cars is that, typical passenger car is about 10 hours of use a week. It's called like an hour and a half a day for 7 days, so it's about 10 hours. But if it's autonomous, it could be used 100 hours a week. Now, I'm not sure what the average usage would be, but average usage in autonomous mode might be 50 hours, but certainly it could be used 100 hours out of 168 hours a week. So that would be a 10x increase in the productivity of the car. But it costs the same. So if you just do the basic math on that, it's like, okay, now you go from like, 25% margins to 90% margins. It's insane. And then that, for cars that are owned by customers, they would obviously revenue share with the the customers, and so the owners of the cars, I think, I think would earn quite a bit more than the lease cost or financing cost of the car when it's in autonomous mode. So yeah, but if you just think of asset utilization efficiency, and you go from 10 hours a week of a car to 50 or 100 hours a week, and it's the same car, that's just, it's the biggest explosion in value, maybe ever.
So, I have a quick follow-up, but again, let us know we can do a time check. But you kind of were just talking about just content, and like one question I actually had, it was a follow-up kind of a little bit to what you were mentioning and somewhat off topic, but do you see it, do you foresee a rise in mechanisms to determine the authenticity of content and the validity of what is being said? Like, I think that's in this future, right? I mean, I see half the time I feel like I turn up YouTube and, you know, they're taking an interview from you and then you're randomly mentioning Bitcoin and...
Oh, man.
Or I've seen interviews of us, like people are messaging us from our interview back in May of 2022 and they're live streaming it like it's happening live. I'm like, wow, I look different 2 years ago with long hair. It's like, but it's you talking and you're randomly, the Bitcoin, reel is going on the bottom. So what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to be promoting crypto. So if at most in a joking way, but if you see me pumping crypto, it's not me. I do think there's some merit in Bitcoin and maybe some of the other crypto, and I sort of have a soft spot for Dogecoin because I just like dogs and memes. Yeah, I don't know. On the X platform, there's pretty quickly things get community noted, or there's in the replies people say, hey, this is not real. So I think I don't know, we can work to try to have community notes surface faster, and also to if similar videos are popping up, that the community note gets appended to any kind of similar video. But I think it's definitely always, one should be cautious about seeing any. If you see a sales pitch for crypto, I would double check whether that is real.
All right, Elon. We want to wrap up with a final question for you, which is, what are you most excited about regarding Tesla and SpaceX?
Well, I think I've basically described it already, but the key for SpaceX is to achieve full and rapid reusability of the Starship rocket. This is really the holy grail of space technology. No one has ever made a fully reusable orbital rocket. So Starship is the first design that is even capable of that. This is an absolutely profound thing, because a fully reusable, rapidly reusable rocket is the difference between humanity being a single planet civilization and a multi-planet civilization. So that's gigantic, and I think we might get there next year. So that's a big deal. I mean, for Tesla, yeah, I mean, or count the chickens until they're hatched, and these are tough chickens. But I think it's going to happen next year, and then a general solution to self-driving, that is also an incredibly profound thing, and that's unsupervised full self-driving. That looks like it's, if it doesn't happen later this year, it seems extremely likely to happen next year. If you just plot the points in the curve of miles between interventions, that number is improving dramatically. So those are really the two whopper things. And then, as I mentioned for Tesla, also Optimus. The Optimus numbers are like, they're like so mind-blowing that you're like, is this real? Because I actually think the market for humanoid robots is in excess of 10 billion units. like more than the number of humans, because people will each want one, and then there'll be others that are involved in industry and stuff. So, you know, if they do sell even at volume for $20,000, that's 20 trillion. So it's like, I mean, this is bananas numbers, you know. I should say something. Anyway, it's just insane numbers.
So we should hold on to their stock.
Yeah, anyway, it's just really nuts. I should say $200 trillion. This is just an insane number. Yeah, $20,000 times 10 billion. So 20 trillion, 200 trillion. It's a lot. It's like bananas numbers. So that's why I wonder what does money even mean at that point, you know? So these things are, like I said, they're so profound that they will be recognized, assuming we do them, we actually do them, they will be recognized 100 years from now, maybe 1,000 years from now, as fundamental milestones in civilization. That's the level of significance we're talking about here. Over a couple years. And thanks for your support, guys. Really super appreciated.
If we can, we would love to just get a virtual / in-person. Oh well, I think we literally have a standing ovation happening right now. Yeah, it's crazy. I feel like I can now say Elon actually danced when you talked about the cat at the X Takeover. So. But yeah, thank you again, Elon, Kelvin and I, on behalf of our organization. Thank you for being at the X Takeover, for giving us literally about an hour of your time and more. Thank you for the support of our community, retail investors, and we appreciate all that you're doing for humanity and actually picking up the shovel and doing it.
All right, sounds good.
So, background on this. This was supposed to be 5 minutes. Like when he was DMing me back, he was like, maybe 5 minutes. And then it went from 15 to 30, and then next thing you know, we're going an hour. Yeah, so thank you guys for just coming out and being a part of this event. Yeah.
Yeah, that was amazing, guys. So, not quite the 4-hour interview we got a couple years ago, but pretty close.
Starlink for the win.
That's right. All right, so you heard it from the GOAT. All right, stay tuned for our